My name's Ciaran Gribbin. I'm an Irishman. I've been a musician all of my life. I've had the blessing and the pleasure to be able to spend my life singing, creating songs, touring, paying my bills, doing whatever it was with regards to music. And it's been a blessing. From a very, very young age, at 6 years of age, I said to my mum, I'm going to be a rock star. And she said, good luck with that. But it's true, I ended up being a rock star. At 11 years of age, I bought my first guitar with my own money. I went and done what any good Irishman would do, and that's potato gathering. This is true. So I went for 3 weeks. I schemed school for 3 weeks and raised enough money with gathering spuds in boxes to buy my first electric guitar. And I used to sit in my bedroom and learn INXS songs when I was 11 and 12, and AC/DC songs and rock and roll songs, Sweet Home Alabama, Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses, all of these classic riffs, like, and of course stuff like, and then when I was feeling mellow and chilled out, I would do stuff like, but I always dreamt of writing songs, so at a very, very young age, I wrote my first song around maybe 6 or 7 years of age as well. I didn't want to learn guitar. I wanted to stand on stage from a young age and sing my own songs. And at 15, 16 years of age, I, with my best friend, formed my first rock band, and we got on stage in the bars and pubs of Belfast. And Belfast was pretty a rough place at that time. It was full of bombs and bloodshed. It was a civil war going on. And it was a pretty crazy time, but music was the one true thing that was lifting my spirit, lifting my soul, lifting my mind, my mood out of the darkness. And, I just knew that if I focused on this positivity with music, it could raise me out of this place that I lived in Belfast. But I got a lot of education in those bars of Belfast, and many times I feared for my life. I could tell you many stories, one in particular I'll tell you now, of standing on stage and masked men, terrorists and balaclavas marched into the room as I'm standing on this stage like this, and I had 2 beautiful girls beside me, one on my right and left, and my best friend Paul on drums. And they marched into the room, 15 men with balaclavas, black Kalashnikovs, Uzis, grenades, and I literally thought I was going to die. I was about 17 years of age at the time. And the guy, thankfully they weren't there to shoot anyone, they were just there to read a statement out from the loyalist prisoners. And the room wasn't filled with normal people. The room was filled with the godfathers of the local loyalist scene. So here I am at 17 years of age. And he took the microphone from me just to read a statement. And when he was finished reading the statement in his balaclava, he handed the microphone back to me and he said, "Sing you wee shit." And it was a defining moment in my life. I remember thinking to myself, well, I either run a mile at this point and never stand on stage again, or I just sing. So I turned around to my best friend Paul and goes, let's do this. And we sang "You're Simply the Best" by Tina Turner. And the floor just filled up. And it was instantly that I realized then even the most darkened soul can be raised by a darkened heart. And I was playing to a room full of people who had dark hearts that were born in violence and bloodshed. And the dance floor filled up in front of me, and we played songs like party songs like YMCA, and I never stopped. Since that moment there, I knew the power of music, and I never stopped singing since that moment. After about 10 years of the pubs in Belfast, I dreamt of doing better things. So I was always writing songs and recording songs and dreaming big, dreaming that someday that I would walk on these great stages with great bands and sing these amazing songs and have thousands of people in front of me. I always had that dream. But it wasn't until 30 years of age, after maybe 15 solid years of performing in the pubs of Belfast and London and Dublin and Derry and toured across Europe, but I got my first break around the 30 years of age mark. And that song, I wrote a song with a DJ called Paul Oakenfold, and he happened to be friends with a lady called Madonna. And you might have heard of her, the Material Girl. And it was really a godsend for me because it was the first real break. Madonna heard the songs that I was writing with Oakenfold, And she loved them, and she recorded 2 of the songs, and one of them went on to be a #1 single in 14 countries, a song called Celebration, and it got Grammy nominated, and my life changed forever after that. For the first time ever in my life, instead of me knocking the doors and lifting the phones and saying, please, can I have the gig, or can I get on that festival, or can I write a song for this or that, the phone started ringing, and I started writing music for movie soundtracks, and got to work with people like Al Pacino in movies and a lot of sort of different movie superstars, and worked on a movie soundtrack called Killing Bono, which of U2 fame, and worked with the boys from U2. So that was a great, amazing time for me as a young artist. But I'd sort of given up at 35 that I was those rock and roll dreams. I was like, well, I'm getting married and I'm settling down and I'm going to have babies. And so I thought, well, I'm never going to get a chance to be a rock star anymore. And then out of the blue, I got offered to go and do a tour in Australia. So I'm in Ireland at this stage with my wife, and I go down under for the very first time, and I do gigs in Perth and Melbourne and Sydney. And after a period of touring in Australia, at a party one night, just being in the right place at the right time in Sydney, I met the keyboard player from INXS, Andrew Farris. And after about 3 nights of socializing with Andrew Farris, of loads of rock and roll stories and alcohol and smoking stuff we shouldn't have been smoking, it was a lot of fun. The acoustic guitar came out around a table about 2 o'clock in the morning, and there was about a dozen people sitting at this table, and we'd been partying all night. And Andrew said to me, why don't you play a song? And for 3 days, I'd been telling Andrew how great a fan I was of INXS. And he said, well, why don't you do a song from INXS? So he picked up the guitar and he started playing this. Now, I always loved this INXS song. Our veils are misty, streets are blue. How many looks that should have had, and all that exists, ooh, but none has your beauty. I see your face, and I will survive. You mystify me. Mystify me. That's a little bit of Mystify. And I have a very distinct memory of as a young musician sitting in my mum's living room watching INXS live at Wembley Stadium in London. And here I am sitting at 35 years of age, 20 years later, with the guy that wrote these songs, Never Tear Us Apart and Mystify, and I'm telling him for 3 days how great he is. And I sang this song with him at 3 in the morning, and he looked, after I finished singing the song, he looked at me and he goes, I think you're going to play a role in the future of INXS. And I thought to myself, this guy's drunk. I'll never hear from this dude ever again. So off I went back to Ireland again, and I just got married, and we were expecting our first kid. My wife was 8 months pregnant at the time. And I thought, I'll never hear from this guy again. But out of the blue, the phone rang, and a month before my wife was due to give birth, Andrew Farris from INXS calls me up and goes, look, we've just got rid of our singer. I think I'd love you to come down to Australia, write some songs with me, and maybe try out an audition for INXS. And I said, mate, perfect, I'd love to, but my wife's just about to give birth to our first child. So she said, you just gotta go, you gotta take these opportunities. So I jumped on a plane to Australia, 36 hours journey from Ireland to Sydney, from door to door it takes. And I went down to Australia for 4 days. On the first day I wrote a song with them, the second day I wrote another one, the third day I met INXS over a barbecue, and on the fourth day before I went to the airport to fly out that night, I stood in the room with INXS for the first time, and I did an audition for the band. And after singing 2 or 3 songs with the band, tiny little room in a rehearsal space, they all sort of looked at each other and goes, the gig's yours if you want it. So back to Ireland I went after 4 days, said to my wife, after this baby is born, we're moving to Australia. So we did. The baby was born, and 2 months after James was born, our first kid, we jumped on a plane. And 3 months later, I was standing on stage. We'd moved to Australia with our family, and 3 months later, I was standing in front of 30,000 people in Buenos Aires. And I am if anyone says that dreams come true if you stay at them long enough, well, I am that story. I never gave up on the dream, and I'm now currently living in Australia 10 years and had a wonderful life, and got to stand on stage and watch 10,000 people jump up and down when you do that. That's